Greetings, fellow seekers of truth and unravelers of ancient enigmas. Welcome to Ancient Relics Keeper, where history's most profound secrets await your keen discovery. The Princess's Eye. A remarkably tall princess was discovered buried in an ancient cemetery. Her left eye replaced with a golden prosthetic. This remains one of the most mysterious archaeological finds ever recorded at the ancient Persian city of Sheri-Suk. Known to history as the Burnt City. Located in the southeastern region of Iran. The Burnt City is an incredibly ancient urban settlement that was first uncovered in the early 20th century. The entire site appeared to have been completely swallowed by the sands of the surrounding desert. Through multiple excavation campaigns, archaeologists gradually realized they were standing before a colossal mystery from the dawn of human civilization. This city was once among the largest settlements on Earth, spanning more than 450 acres. That fact alone is staggering, especially considering the city was built in the middle of the Lut Desert, one of the hottest places on the planet. Why would prehistoric humans construct a city in such an arid, unforgiving landscape, especially without any known technology to bring water to the region? Perhaps the environment was dramatically different in ancient times. Or perhaps there are secrets modern experts have yet to uncover. The city was first founded around 550 years before Christ. Over the course of the next millennium, it burned to the ground 3 separate times, hence its modern name. By approximately 300 years before Christ, the entire city was abandoned without warning. To this day, scientists remain baffled by the same unanswered questions. What caused the repeated fires? Why did people continue to rebuild? And what ultimately drove them to leave for good? The most striking discovery is the tomb of a princess who lived roughly 800 years ago. She stood an astonishing 8 m tall, a height that would have been considered giant-like at the dawn of civilization, particularly for a woman. Even more baffling, one of her eyes had been replaced with a golden prosthesis. The artifact sent shock waves through the archaeological community. It is the most sophisticated ancient artificial eye ever unearthed. Scientists believe it to be the oldest prosthetic eye in the world. The next oldest known example was found in Egypt, but that one came more than 800 years later. The golden eye had been carefully placed into the woman's left eye socket. It was made from a blend of natural bitumen and animal fat. The entire structure was modeled to realistically mimic a human eye, complete with intricate blood vessels crafted from golden filaments thinner than 0.5 millimeter. An extraordinary achievement in ancient craftsmanship. Of course, no one knows who she was or why she lost her eye. Ancient Samos. Samos isn't a name that many people are familiar with. This island sits just about 1 mile off the coast of Turkey and has a history stretching back 6,000 years. Countless events have taken place here. Far too many to recount in a single day. But there are some extraordinary highlights that simply cannot be ignored. When a place has existed for as long as this, it's no surprise that it's saturated with myths and legends. According to ancient tales, sea goddesses once lived on the island long before the arrival of humans. Among them was Thetis, the mother of the legendary hero Achilles. Samos appears repeatedly throughout Greek mythology. The island's first known ruler was said to be Anais, a demigod and son of Poseidon himself. When Jason set out on his quest for the Golden Fleece, Anna joined him on that adventure. Mythology also claims that the goddess Hera was born on the island of Samos. Just as important is the legacy of the famed philosopher and mathematician Pythagoras. The historian Herodotus once praised Samos as the greatest city both for Greeks and for foreigners alike. Over the centuries, the island has preserved a staggering collection of remarkable artifacts. It once served as a shared home to the civilizations of Minoan Crete, Sinai, Egypt, and even Mesopotamia. This multicultural legacy is reflected in the objects uncovered through archaeological excavations. One of the most unusual discoveries is a small bronze statue depicting a horse-drawn chariot. But the horses are unlike anything we would expect. In a photo taken at the Samos Artifact Museum, the horses appear with elongated faces and necks that resemble giraffes more than actual horses. One of them even seems to be holding a wheel or some kind of control device. The chariot itself doesn't look like a traditional carriage. It resembles a submarine more than anything else, or perhaps some strange piece of advanced technology. Another curious artifact is a bronze object engraved with images of nude goddesses believed to have once been a votive offering to King Ael from Old Testament times. The inscription on the artifact is written in Aramaic, and researchers believe it originated in Syria during the 7th century B.C. A single glance is enough to appreciate the beauty and uniqueness of these ancient objects. Samos is also home to one of the oldest known water management systems in history. In the 6th century B.C., a tunnel was dug straight through a mountain to transport hundreds of cubic meters of water each day. When it was first completed, it was the longest tunnel of its kind in existence. Even by modern engineering standards, this achievement remains a marvel of construction and ingenuity. Project Sunshine. Project Sunshine isn't a conspiracy theory. It was a real secret research program once carried out by the governments of the United States and the United Kingdom to study the effects of radioactive fallout on the human body. During the 1950s, scientists stole bodies from cemeteries and hospitals in the UK, the US, and even Australia. Many of the corpses belonged to recently deceased infants. A horrifying truth that only came to light decades later. One British newspaper revealed that the bodies of children were secretly taken from hospitals and shipped to the United States for nuclear experiments. In 2001, Australia's Department of Health and Welfare launched an investigation to determine whether the remains of Australian children had also been sent to America. It's now known that over 1,500 human corpses from 6 different countries were collected for the project. These bodies were analyzed by the now-defunct United States Atomic Energy Commission to study the accumulation of strontium-90 inches human bones. Documents declassified by President Bill Clinton confirmed that the scientists involved were fully aware their actions were unethical. But they continued believing it was the only way to truly understand the effects of radiation on the human body. A report from ABC News revealed that the locations targeted for body collection were mostly poor communities in the US, the UK, and Canada. Scientists assumed they could more easily take bodies from these areas without being detected. FEMA detention camps. The conspiracy theory surrounding FEMA camps remains one of the most controversial topics in America. According to this theory, FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, is secretly building a nationwide network of concentration camps in preparation for a dark future. Martial law, mass arrests, and the total lockdown of American citizens. The scenario goes like this. Following a natural disaster, national crisis, or global war, the government will usher in a new world order. Anyone who dissents, those who speak out against authority, refuse to vote for the ruling party, or simply express the wrong opinion on social media will be rounded up and placed in FEMA camps. And there they will be eliminated. To this day, there is no concrete evidence to prove this theory is true. However, history reminds us that the United States once created detention camps during World War II, where Japanese Americans were held without trial. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, theories about FEMA camps have surged once again. Many believe that locking down nearly 9 billion people across the globe over the past 2 years was merely a test run for the coming world order. And the most ironic part, the existence of internment camps in American history is rarely mentioned in school textbooks. The Wobbling Moon and the Forest of Death. In 2015, a silent ecological disaster struck the Gulf of Carparia in northern Australia. 10% of the mangrove forest there died off in a short period of time. First, scientists believed the cause was unusually high temperatures in the Pacific Ocean, which resulted in lower tides and prevented the tree's roots from accessing salt water. But a new study revealed the real culprit: the moon. With its strange wobble, the moon plays a major role in the forces that govern our planet, especially the tides through its gravitational pull. But there's another lesser-known phenomenon. A moon wobble. A slight tilt in the moon's orbit that follows a cycle of about 18.5 years. Every 18 to 19 years. The moon tilts just enough to alter global tidal patterns in a dramatic way. NASA has long been aware of this, and researchers have compared satellite data spanning the past 3 decades. They discovered that each time the moon wobbles, mangrove forests around the world suffer serious damage. The secret room. During a routine excavation at Province House in downtown Halifax, Nova Scotia in early 2019, archaeologists unexpectedly uncovered a stone chamber beneath the ground roughly the size of a living room filled with ancient artifacts. Not a single archaeologist or construction worker suspected that a secret room existed here. And there were no records, blueprints, or maps to suggest it ever had. The discovery was made when an excavator struck what was thought to be a foundation stone. But as they dug deeper, the stone collapsed, revealing a hollow space beneath. We found a vaulted room made of dry stone with a semicircular dome. Lead archaeologist April McIntyre told CBC. She reported the find to the Canadian government, describing the chamber as roughly 6 m long from north to south, 4 m wide from east to west, and nearly 3 m tall from floor to ceiling. Though much of the base was covered in mud, due to safety concerns, no one was allowed inside. So those measurements were based entirely on footage taken by a remotely operated camera. Total of 534 artifacts were found, mostly glass and ceramic items. But the origin and purpose of the chamber remain a complete mystery. We can't be sure what it was used for, McIntyre said, comparing the structure to gunpowder storage bunkers from the late 18th to early 19th centuries based on the age of the artifacts recovered. Whether researchers will continue studying the items is still uncertain. Most of them have since been moved into secure storage. The ghost ship. Back in the 1940s, a chilling legend began to circulate throughout the maritime world. It was the tale of the SS Urang Medan, a ship said to have exploded off the coast of Indonesia after its entire crew died under mysterious circumstances. Some claimed a lone survivor had washed ashore in the Marshall Islands. Others believed the ship had been attacked by pirates. A few even theorized it had been carrying hazardous chemicals. But to this day, there is no solid evidence that the ship ever existed. According to official history, the SS Urang Medan is just a myth. Yet during its time, nearly everyone in the maritime community knew the story. As the tale goes, while passing through the Strait of Malha, the ship sent out a distress signal. It read, "We are drifting. All officers, including the captain, are dead. The entire crew is dead. I am dying." And then 47, a nearby American vessel called the Silver Star, picked up the message and rushed to the scene. When its crew boarded the Urang Medan, they stepped into what felt like a horror movie. The entire crew was dead, including the ship's dog. Everybody was found with its mouth wide open as if frozen in a final scream or snarl of terror. The crew of the Silver Star fled in fear. And just minutes later, the Urang Medan exploded, engulfed in flames beneath the night sky. To this day, no one knows what really happened. There are no official records, no wreckage, only scattered retellings lost in the fog of memory like a phantom ship drifting eternally across the sea. Never fully proven to be real. Gorgon, the extinction survivor. Roughly 252 million years ago, Earth experienced the Great Dying, also known as the parent extinction, when 90% of all living organisms were wiped out. But one species survived the catastrophe, the Gorgonopsians. Christian Kammer of the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences calls them the Walking Dead lineage, a term used to describe species that survive mass extinction events, but are doomed to vanish not long afterward. Typically, these lineages last no more than 1 or 2 million years before the environment changes beyond their ability to adapt. Gorgonopsians, nicknamed Gorgons, were named after the monsters of Greek mythology. like Medusa, who could turn their enemies to stone with a single glance. In truth, the real Gorgons were not quite so terrifying. They were enormous saber-toothed predators, more than 10 feet long and weighing nearly 600 pounds, with massive jaws and dagger-like canine teeth capable of tearing through flesh with ease. First, scientists believe they died out during the Permian extinction. But a newly discovered, partially decomposed skull in South Africa proves that Gorgonopsians managed to survive at least for a time, while most other species perished. In a world where 90% of life was wiped out, the survival of such a massive saber-toothed creature is nothing short of miraculous, even if they only lasted another million years. The dragon houses on the Greek island of Euboea. There are 23 ancient megalithic ruins known as the dragon houses. These structures, while far from comfortable by today's standards, were clearly not built just for shelter. There is something mysterious linking them to the old gods. Most of the dragon houses are scattered across Mount Oki, a place ancient Greeks believed to be a gateway to the divine. But not to just any deities. These were the Olympian gods: Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, Hera, the most powerful figures in Greek mythology. The houses stretch all the way to the summit, their roof still intact, silently watching over the landscape and gazing toward the endless sea. Why did ancient people build massive stone houses on a mountaintop? Was it to take in the breathtaking view? But who would actually live in such places? Were they temples, altars, or did they serve some other hidden function? Most of the dragon houses are either square or rectangular. Their walls are made from carefully stacked flat stones. No mortar or cement. Yet, they've remained standing for thousands of years, seemingly defying the wind and time. The true age of the dragon houses remains unknown. Some theories suggest they date back to the Roman Empire. In 1959, Professor Nicholas Mopoulos excavated one of the structures and found layers of insulation beneath the floor dating to ancient Roman times, confirming the houses are at least 2,000 years old. Still, they were forgotten for centuries. It wasn't until the 18th century that British explorer John Hawkins rediscovered the scattered ruins along the mountain and reignited the modern world's curiosity. To this day, the mystery of the Dragoness remains unsolved. Some believe the site was once a ceremonial complex, perhaps shrines or homes for priests. Others go further, daring to suggest that these were actual dwellings for gods themselves, who once looked down upon ancient Greece from within their stone-built sanctuaries. The Philadelphia experiment. Compared to the tale of the SS Orang Mudun, the Philadelphia experiment might be even harder to believe. This is a bizarre story tied to a rumored top-secret effort by the United States Navy to make an entire warship vanish from space and time. The story first came to light in 1955 when a former merchant marine named Carl M. Allen claimed he had personally witnessed the event while stationed at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard in October of 1943. According to Allen, the U.S. Navy was conducting an experiment to make the escort ship USS Eldridge invisible. The test apparently succeeded for a brief moment. The ship disappeared completely, only to reappear moments later in Virginia, and then suddenly rematerialize back in Philadelphia. But what happened to the crew was the true horror. Some were frozen solid like statues, unable to move. Others went completely insane. A few lost their memories entirely, unable to recall who they were or what had just happened. Carl Allen recorded his strange experience in an equally strange way. He took a book about flying saucers written by author Morris K. Jessup and scribbled his story in the margins page after page of handwritten notes. He then mailed the annotated book along with his warning to the Office of Naval Research, claiming that Jessup was dangerously close to uncovering the truth about alien life, secret military technology, and UFOs. Naturally, the U.S. military has never acknowledged any teleportation involving the USS Eldridge. Carl Allen was later dismissed as a delusional man, but he never wavered from his story, insisting on its truth until the day he died. The Haunted African Artifacts. In the year 2014, a collection of 320 African cultural relics was rediscovered in the storage rooms of the art department at Missouri Southern State University. These items tribal artifacts originating from nations such as Sierra Leone, Congo, Ghana, and Nigeria included tools, woven textiles, ceremonial masks, wooden sculptures, miniature grave markers, iron currency bars, and many other objects. The forgotten collection had been gathered by former Associate Professor of Art Val Christensen during a sabbatical research project when experts were later brought in to study and catalog the artifacts. They carefully stored everything in a temperature-controlled environment to ensure proper preservation. But things took a bizarre turn only a few days later when an employee reported hearing high-pitched screams, loud banging, and inexplicable noises coming from the storage room. The worker rushed in and found one of the masks shattered on the floor. A few days after that, the room flooded with several inches of water despite maintenance crews being unable to find the source. Fortunately, the artifacts had been kept on elevated shelves and were quickly moved to another room. But the new room soon flooded as well. Dr. Jacqueline Lewis Harris, an art historian from the University of Missouri St. Louis, proposed several theories to explain the phenomenon, including the possibility that 4 of the artifacts carried powerful negative energy, perhaps due to their origins among rival tribes, or because they were crafted with the intent of revenge. She suggested that the items were thirsty, which might explain the strange flooding, and recommended isolating them and performing a sage-burning cleansing ritual. The ritual was scheduled, and no further updates were ever released, perhaps proving that sometimes no news really is good news. The fake princess. How much would you pay for a fake ancient statue? To put it politely, one might call it a replica. In the year 2003, the Bolton Museum in Manchester, England, paid nearly $500,000 for a forgery after both Christie's and the British Museum had authenticated it as a 300-year-old artifact. In reality, it was an elaborate hoax, a forged statue said to depict the granddaughter of King Tutankhamun. The man behind the scam was sentenced to nearly 5 years in prison. In Europe, there's little tolerance for artifact fraud. The statue was known as the Amarna Princess, although claimed to represent one of King Tut's nieces. Her real name was never identified. Tutankhamun's royal lineage was notoriously complex, tangled, and inbred, a fact that was surprisingly common in ancient Egypt. Few people realize that before Tutankhamun took the throne, a mysterious female pharaoh ruled Egypt. In fact, King Tut's famous tomb was originally believed to have been prepared for her. Her royal name was Nefertiti, but her true identity remains unclear. Some researchers believe she was Tut's older sister. Tutankhamun's father, Akhenaten, is remembered as one of the most controversial pharaohs in Egyptian history. After his death, his youngest surviving daughter took the throne at the age of 12 and ruled while disguised as a man. Her older sister, Maritan, may have served as a symbolic wife, but the real power may have been shared between the two sisters, with only one presenting as male. In any case, the arrangement didn't last. According to scholar Valérie Ongano from the University of Quebec, Maritan seized the throne for herself after just 1 year. Soon afterward, Tutankhamun ascended to power, possibly with help from his stepmother, Nefertiti. The entire royal succession unraveled into a web of dynastic chaos. Let's return to Akhenaten. He ruled for 17 years. But his reign was disrupted by a plague that claimed the lives of 3 of his daughters. Some Egyptologists believe he began preparing his remaining children to inherit the throne in case the tragedy continued. As part of this plan, he married his eldest daughter, Maritan, and arranged for his next daughter to wed his son, Tutankhamun. The one left out was Nefernoet Tasheret, only around 7 years old at the time. Recent scans of Tutankhamun's tomb in the Valley of the Kings suggest that it was originally designed for a woman. though no one knows for certain who she was. It may have been Nefertiti, believed to have ruled after Akhenaten's death, or Meritin, the sister wife. Either way, Tutan's family history is anything but normal. In 1922, when famed archaeologist Howard Carter discovered King Tut's tomb, he found that several other individuals had been buried inside. By 2007, a man named Sean Greenhog confessed to selling forged artifacts and laundering the profits. It was Sean who created the Amarna princess, the forgery that began this tale in a backyard shed with the help of his parents. The scam earned them over $1 million US. Russia's giant squid. Russian President Vladimir Putin is rumored to be attempting to weaponize a mysterious deep-sea creature, a killer squid, to enhance his military forces. The squid was reportedly discovered more than 3 kilometers beneath Antarctic ice and belongs to an entirely unknown species. According to recent reports, the monstrous creature was encountered by a team of Russian scientists who attempted to capture it and turn it into a living weapon. The terrifying squid is said to have 14 limbs, the ability to hypnotize prey, and the power to eject a toxic substance that travels more than 45 m through water. Although no verified images of the sea monster exist, strange reports from various sources continue to emerge. One alleged whistleblower, Dr. Anton Podolka, claimed to have been part of the Russian research expedition that encountered the beast. They were studying a frozen subglacial lake when they stumbled upon the horrifying creature, which they dubbed Organism 46b. The squid was believed to have lived near Lake Vasto for centuries, trapped in ice nearly 3 kilometers beneath the surface. It sounds like the plot of a low-budget horror film, but the researchers insist it really happened. Upon being freed from its icy prison, the creature allegedly disabled radio equipment, killed 2 scientists, and used telepathic hypnosis on another. It took 5 days to finally subdue the monster and transport it to safety. According to rumors, the Russian government is now experimenting with ways to turn the more than 10 m long, nightmarishly slippery squid into a dangerous biological weapon. The woman in the marble coffin. In 1969, Soviet scientists were rumored to have discovered a perfectly preserved human corpse encased within a marble coffin near a small village. The woman's body and the coffin had been extracted from permafrost, where they remained untouched and intact for an unknown span of time. What made the story shocking and helped it go viral on social media in recent years was the claim that the woman was 800 million years old, a declaration that no modern scientist would ever take seriously. And yet, according to conspiracy theorists, this was exactly what the Soviets were said to have announced. The origin of the theory is unclear, but it first appeared online around the year 2014. Supporters allege that Soviet scientists conspired with communist officials to suppress the truth. If the woman had really lived 800 million years ago, it would completely shatter our understanding of human evolution. Her remains would serve as physical proof of an ancient civilization that predated all accepted timelines. Though the idea sounds wildly implausible, some believe an ancient human race existed long before what we consider the beginning of mankind. Still, the conspiracy theory lacks any scientific basis. No one knows where the marble coffin is today, and there are no photos or physical samples to confirm its existence. Only stories saturated in myth and imagination. Swastikas and Viking runes unearthed. In the dark days of World War II, a mysterious discovery during airport construction in Denmark raised haunting questions about ancient history and Nazi ideology. While digging nearly 1 meter beneath the soil, a local Danish resident uncovered human remains and several strange pieces of jewelry. Among them, a brooch stood out and quickly drew the attention of archaeologists. Experts from Denmark's National Museum arrived on site and identified the brooch as bearing ancient runes, the symbolic script used by the Norse during the Viking Age alongside a swastika, the symbol later hijacked by fascism. At the time the brooch was created, the swastika was still a sacred solar emblem, an ancient sign used across Europe for thousands of years. But after it was co-opted by the Nazis, The symbol became forever linked to destruction. What made the discovery especially unsettling was its connection to a Nazi propaganda campaign. In 1944, as the fascists sought every means to promote Aryan supremacy, they turned to Norse history and runic scripts to bolster their twisted narrative. Many top members of the Nazi Party believed that Germans descended from Viking warriors whom they regarded as the purest and most ancient bloodline. According to their logic, runes weren't just primitive writing systems. They were proof that the Aryan race was superior. The brooch engraved with runes and the swastika became a sacred relic in their effort to rewrite history to fit their ideology. But after Danish newspapers reported the find in 1945, something strange happened. In every printed photo, the swastika had been carefully erased. No explanation was ever given, but the act itself hinted at a quiet effort to deny the legacy of a past misused. A past in which history and truth were bent to serve the darkest ambitions of man. The Sahama lines. Everyone has heard of the Nazca lines in Peru, but few know about the Sahama lines in Bolivia. These ancient geoglyphs are 15 times larger than their Peruvian counterparts and stretch nearly 10,000 m in total. They are even more mysterious than the Naza designs. No one truly knows who created the Sahama lines. Unlike the Nazca figures which archaeologists have attributed to the Paracas and later Nazca cultures between 400 BC and 500 AD. In Bolivia, there is no definitive evidence pointing to the builders of these lines. Some of them have been dated as far back as 1000 BC, making them up to 600 years older than the Nazca lines. The Sahama lines are so extensive that researchers believe it may have taken hundreds of years passed down across many generations to complete them. The method used to create them is surprisingly simple. Ancient people merely scraped away the dark surface stones of the desert to reveal the lighter soil beneath, much like drawing lines in the dirt with a stick. But in this case, each line stretches over 10 m, cutting straight through natural obstacles, as if some massive force had carved its path across the landscape. According to scientists, these lines were likely pilgrimage routes leading to ancient sacred sites. In other words, ancient roads. There is evidence to support this theory. Along the lines lie ruins of temples and burial towers. When Christian missionaries arrived in Bolivia, they used the Sajama network to link their newly built churches. Moreover, research by Adam Birch shows that the Amara people still use these lines to this day. But do we really need dozens of roads just to reach sacred places? Most of the Sahama lines don't lead anywhere at all, which suggests there may be a deeper purpose that scientists have yet to uncover. Teotihuacan and the gods of creation. Roughly 35 miles northeast of Mexico City lies the ruins of a vast metropolis. An ancient world unlike anything else on Earth. The giant pyramids here draw millions of visitors each year. Some even claim these structures are more awe-inspiring than the pyramids of Cairo. But what fascinates archaeologists most isn't what lies above ground. It's the underground mystery. Mercury pools and unanswered questions. One bold theory proposes that this was once a spaceport more than 2,000 years ago. Teotihuacan was the most populous city in the Americas. Yet, no one knows what language its builders spoke, how their civilization collapsed, or where they came from. They disappeared around 550 AD, long before the Aztecs arrived. When the Aztecs discovered Teotihuacan, they had no idea what they were looking at. To them, the pyramids and abandoned structures belonged to the gods. They believed the gods once lived there and then left, so they called it the place where the gods were born. The Aztecs couldn't imagine constructing anything so grand, and modern scientists feel the same. In 2003, archaeologists discovered a tunnel beneath the Temple of the Feathered Serpent, the largest and most ornate pyramid in Teotihuacan. The tunnel had been sealed for 800 years. The world watched as researchers excavated the site. Everyone expected treasure, but no one anticipated the pools of liquid mercury. They found necklaces made from human teeth, exquisite figurines with gemstone eyes, greenstone, crocodile teeth, and jaguar statues. Enough artifacts to fill a museum. But the greatest discovery wasn't the treasure. It was an entire hidden world beneath the monumental structure. Nearly 60 foot underground. Researchers uncovered shallow pools of mercury, believed to represent ceremonial lakes. The tunnel walls sparkled with powdered pyite, what we call fool's gold, creating a starry glow along the ceiling. Many archaeologists believe the tunnel was used for complex rituals, possibly tied to the cosmology of Teotihuacan's builders. Archaeologist Gomez Chavez once said they truly believed Teotihuacan was the birthplace of the gods, the center of all things. In ancient times, the people even flooded the plaza above the tunnel to make the pyramids appear like mountains rising from a primordial sea. The mercury might have been used in these rituals or served a purpose that modern science has yet to understand. Some believe it was part of a propulsion or energy system. The mystery remains unsolved. The Chaco Canyon vortex in the American Southwest lies an ancient site so mysterious it's hard to know where to begin. Should we talk about the bizarre phenomena investigated by the U.S. government in the 1980s? The unexplained electromagnetic energy that blankets the area or the strange lights that dance across the night sky. This is Chaco Canyon. A rugged, desolate gorge stretching about 10 miles through New Mexico. The land is barren, dry, and alien like the surface of Mars. Steep sandstone cliffs tower overhead, while the plains below lie empty and cracked. It doesn't look like a place anyone would choose to live. And yet, people once did. Long ago, in the heart of the canyon stood the remains of a Native American city. Today, we simply call it Cho Canyon, named after the terrain itself. Archaeological evidence shows the city was inhabited from around 500 AD to 170 AD, and then silence. No one knows why the people left or what happened to their civilization. They left behind monumental structures, proof of engineering brilliance, and then vanished without a trace. Today, strange phenomena continue to manifest around Chaco Canyon. Witnesses have reported seeing oval-shaped objects in the sky, transparent, bending the starlight around them, like a vortex spiraling through the clouds. Some believe it's the leftover energy signature of a portal, once used to transport the people of Chaco Canyon away from this world. There's more. A carved petroglyph near the site shows a large spiral above, resembling a vortex in the sky, perhaps a depiction of a cosmic doorway. Below it stands a human figure, hand reaching toward the spiral as if being pulled into another dimension. It's all speculation, but few deny that Chaco Canyon holds secrets science still cannot explain. The forgotten pyramids of Easter Island. Most have heard of Easter Island, but few know that it has a little sibling, Rapati. While the world marvels at the giant stone statues of Rapa Nui, almost no one speaks of the forgotten pyramids of Rapati. Rapati is like something from a dinosaur theme park. The island is actually the peak of a sinking volcano. At its center lies a vast bay encircled by towering ridges, the remnants of the ancient crater. Imagine Skull Island from the King Kong stories. That's Rapati in real life. A landscape pulled from an epic novel or a Hollywood film. Here's the strangest part. Rapati lies directly opposite Jerusalem across the Earth's diameter. Jerusalem, one of the most sacred cities in the world, has a mirror opposite on the planet's surface, and it's Rapati. Maybe it's just coincidence. Maybe not. Scattered across the ridgelines are signs of a lost civilization. 28 stone fortresses built atop the cliffs. Proof of long-forgotten wars. These ancient fortresses resemble moss-covered pyramids. The oldest Marengo UTA was built roughly 800 years ago. Historians believe the first settlers arrived around the 12th century. Likely Polynesians. Over time, they exhausted the island's resources, fractured into rival clans, and retreated to mountaintop strongholds. A once unified people driven apart by survival. European explorer George Vancouver was the first outsider to arrive. In December of 1791, his arrival brought alcohol and disease, devastating the island. Within just a few decades, About 3/4 of the native population perished. Later came the Peruvian slave traders, abducting the survivors. By 1826, only 2,000 people remained. By 1846, that number had dropped to 100. Despite this, the people clung to their cultural heritage. The British established a coal station, and in 1881, France annexed the island. On June 18 of 1887, the last native queen was deposed, and the monarchy ended. Excavations began in 1956 led by William Malloy and Thor Heyerdahl, focusing on the pyramid-shaped fortress Marengo Uta. They were stunned by the sophisticated construction techniques. Thor Heyerdahl, the Norwegian explorer with unconventional ideas about world history, believed Polynesia had been colonized by a red-haired, fair-skinned race from South America. He called them the Tiki people, sun-worshipping seafarers from the Middle East. In 1947, he crossed 5,000 mi of the Pacific Ocean on a wooden raft to prove his theory. When Captain Jacob Roggeveen reached Easter Island in 1722, he claimed the locals had skin as white as milk. Thor used this detail to support his theory of the ancient Tiki civilization. But most scholars today dismiss his ideas as pseudoscience, lacking serious academic support. The message in a bottle. In the historic city of Edinburgh, Scotland, a local mother uncovered a piece of the past when she discovered a message sealed beneath the floorboards of her home. It was a small handwritten note rolled and hidden inside an empty whiskey bottle placed there during the Victorian era. 135 years ago. The message was written in 1887, and it was only found when plumber Peter Allen was working in the home in early October of 2022. By sheer luck, he cut into the exact floorboard that had hidden the bottle for over a century. The homeowner decided to wait for her children to return before opening the bottle, wondering if it held a will, a treasure map, or just a very old joke. They tried to remove the note with tweezers, but accidentally tore it. In the end, they had to break the bottle to retrieve the fragile scroll. The message read, "James Ritchie and John Grieve laid this floor, but they did not drink the whiskey." October 6, 1887. Whoever finds this bottle may think our dust is blowing through the streets. A simple but haunting discovery. A quiet reminder that the past is never truly gone. It may be hidden just beneath your feet, waiting to be found. The Thursday Society. If any of this sounds familiar, it's because it formed the ideological foundation of the Nazi Party. The book Vril, The Power of the Coming Race, was so popular during the Victorian era that Western mystics began circulating tales about a supernatural force called Vril. Across the globe, secret societies and cults became obsessed with the idea of an underground Aryan race possessing mystical powers. One of the most extreme groups to fully embrace this belief was the Tool Society in Germany. The Thursday Society was a collection of fanatics who believed in Aryan superiority and in the existence of a hidden subterranean humanity. They were among the forces that backed Adolf Hitler during his rise to power. According to historical documents that have long been buried, it was members of the Thursday and Vril societies who helped shape the delusional ideals of Nazism. In reality, World War II was a war against a mad philosophy, one that most history books rarely confront directly. At the time, the average German citizen had never even heard the name Thursday. But the ruling elite knew and they believed in it. The frightening part is that it may not have ended. Virology, the study of real energy, still exists in the shadows of secret societies. Some believe the Thursday Society never vanished. It merely went underground and continues to pull the strings from the dark. The ancient sea peoples. There once existed a seafaring warrior society, known as the Sea Peoples, who spread terror across the Mediterranean for nearly a century during the second millennium before Christ. Ancient inscriptions and fragments of surviving records even suggest that they played a role in the collapse of the Hittite Empire. Yet to this day, no one knows who the Sea Peoples truly were, nor their culture or origin. the civilizations that clashed with the Sea Peoples, most notably the Egyptians, left behind what little is known about this enigmatic force. Pharaoh Ramesses III is remembered for his brutal battles against them. Inside his tomb, inscriptions describe in vivid detail the Sea People's destructive march across the eastern Mediterranean. They were an alliance of tribes with names like the Sharon, Peliset, In, and Chickles among others. Some scholars have traced their origins to Sicily, the Iron Sea, or the Anatolian coast of modern-day Turkey. But these are only speculative guesses. What's more puzzling is that although many believe the Sea Peoples were displaced by natural disasters or famine, no one can explain why they were so determined to destroy the societies around the Mediterranean. Though they once struck fear across the region, their power came to a sudden end after the Battle of the Nile Delta in 1175 BC, when Ramesses III rallied his armies and defeated the invaders. From that moment on, the Sea Peoples vanished from history. The impossible blue stone. In 1990 in West Africa, a massive blue rock was discovered, an object with the potential to rewrite human history. Today, it's nearly impossible to find reliable information about the mysterious stone. Some even claim the whole thing was a hoax. The stone was found by geologist Angelo Poni while conducting research in Sierra Leone. He stumbled upon a deep blue rock that looked like a piece of the sky turned to solid crystal. It was entirely blue with pale white streaks that resembled wisps of cloud. Angelo, intrigued by the strange object, sent it for testing. Scientists who examined it were stunned and continued passing the stone to other researchers. It made its way through some of the most prestigious laboratories: the University of Geneva, the University of Tokyo, the University of Rome, just to name a few. Every expert agreed this blue stone should not exist. Its chemical makeup resembled nothing ever found on Earth. It became known as the Sky Stone or the Heavenly Rock. Its structure was composed of more than 77% oxygen, along with small amounts of carbon, calcium, silicon, and sodium. To chemists, that composition resembled concrete or plaster. The stone also appeared to have been artificially colored. Most researchers believe it was not a natural material, but rather something man-made, possibly manufactured. Which raises a troubling question. Why was it buried under layers of earth in Africa? Even more puzzling, the layer of soil where the stone was found dates to approximately 12,000 years before Christ. One popular theory is that the blue stone was created by an extraterrestrial civilization. Others argue it was the product of a highly advanced human society that existed in Africa long before the biblical flood. What do you think? The anti-communist vampire. The Philippines, an island nation made up of more than 7,000 islands, is known not only for its Spanish heritage and over 175 native languages, but also for its dark and deeply rooted legends. Among the most terrifying is the tale of the aswang, a vampire-like creature from Filipino folklore. The aswang doesn't just drink blood. It eats internal organs, mucus, and even unborn children. It can transform into a monstrous pig or a man-sized vulture, always appearing in grotesque forms driven by a hunger for flesh. Compared to traditional vampires, the aswang is far more horrifying. In the 1950s, during the Cold War's anti-communist frenzy, the CIA exploited this legend as a tool of psychological warfare. They staged fake aswang attacks. Corpses were hung in trees, necks pierced, and bodies drained of blood. When communist insurgents discovered these staged victims, supernatural fear replaced their will to fight. A terrifying tactic, arguably more disturbing than the creature it mimicked. The belief in the aswang predates Spanish colonization. In 1589, theologian Juan de Plasencia wrote about the creature, describing it as a man-eating demon. Its name varies on Guang, but all versions are tied to death and black magic. The mastermind behind the staged attacks was Edward Geary Lansdale, a former OSS officer and one of the architects of modern psychological operations. Drawing on his background in advertising, Lansdale and his team studied local superstitions and selected the aswang as the most effective fear symbol. Then they orchestrated vampire attacks to see panic within enemy ranks. The Hinterkaifeck murders. In March of 1922, a brutal massacre shocked the Bavarian countryside in southern Germany. 6 members of a family along with their maid were murdered at their remote farmhouse in Hinterkaifeck. To this day, it remains one of Germany's oldest unsolved murder cases unrelated to war, yet never resolved. In 1955, police officially closed the investigation. No one was ever arrested. 4 of the victims were found stacked on top of one another in the barn, suggesting the killer lured them in one by one before striking. Strangely, the previous maid had quit her job after hearing unexplained noises from the attic. She believed the house was haunted. The family then hired a new maid. But just days later, everyone was dead. Before the murders, the father, Andreas Gruber, told neighbors he had seen strange footprints in the snow leading toward the house, but none going out. Everyone had heard footsteps in the attic, yet nothing was ever found. When the new maid arrived, tragedy followed. Their bodies weren't discovered until days later. Magical symbols inside the Salt Tower. London, a city that has endured centuries of pain and bloodshed, is now a bustling tourist destination. Yet behind its modern exterior, still lie relics of stories never fully told. One such place is the Salt Tower, the most mysterious section within the Tower of London. Once a formidable fortress and now a historical museum, the Salt Tower was once used as a prison, and its walls are covered in carvings left by desperate souls awaiting execution. One of the most notable prisoners was Hugh Draper, an innkeeper from Bristol during the 16th century. Draper was accused of practicing witchcraft, a perilous charge during the era of witch hunts that swept across England. He insisted that he was only curious about magic and had never practiced it. However, carved into the cold stone of his cell is a strange symbol still visible today. An intricate astrological globe depicting the full circle of zodiac signs. Clearly, Draper didn't just know of magic. He believed in it. While most carvings in the tower are Christian symbols like crosses and Jesuit emblems, Draper's etching suggests a very different kind of prisoner. During that time, real practitioners of magic did exist. But what they knew about sorcery, about forbidden knowledge, has been lost to time. Only cryptic carvings in stone remain to testify to what cannot be explained. The no-fly zones of Antarctica. There are certain areas in Antarctica where no aircraft is allowed to fly. This restriction has fueled decades of speculation about what is truly being concealed beneath the thick sheets of ice. The official reason for the no-fly zones is magnetic anomalies that can interfere with navigation systems. Many pilots have reported compass malfunctions, disabled GPS systems, and sudden radio silence when flying over specific regions. Governments, including the United States, have declared these zones off-limits for safety reasons. Yet, they've offered few details that silence has only intensified the theories. Some believe the no-fly zones are hiding alien technology, ancient lost cities, or top-secret government facilities. Others claim these zones are portals to Hollow Earth, the hidden world that lies beneath our feet. One of the most enduring legends is tied to Admiral Richard Byrd. In the 1940s, he led Operation High Jump, a massive military expedition to Antarctica. According to rumors, he witnessed strange flying objects and discovered an entrance to an underground realm. His journal, allegedly kept secret, contains descriptions of a mysterious civilization living beneath the ice. There is no concrete evidence that Admiral Byrd ever encountered anything supernatural. Yet, what he reportedly described remains one of the most persistent mysteries in the history of polar exploration. And if Antarctica is indeed guarding secrets beyond imagination, then perhaps these no-fly zones are the key to keeping them hidden from humanity. The ancient gamers. Gaming is not a modern invention. It didn't begin with arcade machines or the classic game of Pong. The ancients were just as fascinated by games as we are today. Now, modern archaeologists are struggling to decode the rules of one of history's most popular pastimes. If someone handed you a few Monopoly pieces without instructions, could you figure out how to play? Now, imagine those pieces had been buried underground for 1,000 years. The challenge would be immense. That's exactly what archaeologist Rutger Schadler of the University of Borg in Switzerland is trying to do. In the year 2005, during construction of a new industrial zone in Poděd, Slovakia, workers accidentally unearthed the tomb of a 4th-century Germanic chieftain. The leader had rested there for over 16 centuries until his grave was exposed, drawing immediate interest from archaeologists. Inside the tomb, they discovered numerous treasures, woodwork, ceramics, and a beautifully crafted wooden board game. The game board closely resembled a modern chessboard with a grid of 17 rows across and 18 rows down. Alongside it were a few black and white game pieces. Nearly 2 decades later, Rutger Schadler is still trying to decode the rules of this mysterious game, a seemingly impossible task that may follow him for the rest of his life. Still, he has successfully reconstructed the rules for other ancient games such as Ludi, a Roman strategy game adapted from the Greek game Pater. Anyone can try it at home using a checkerboard and 24 pieces per player. 48 in total. The rules are available with a quick online search. These reconstructions are based on game boards carved into rooftop tiles and temple steps, including those of the Parthenon, combined with ancient texts, to recreate the most accurate version possible. Still, no one truly knows all the variations and strategies once used in these forgotten battles of the mind. The enigmatic Neolithic mask. In late 2018, the Israel Antiquities Authority, A, announced the discovery of a Neolithic stone mask in the southern Judean desert, drawing wide attention and igniting intense debate about the artifact's authenticity. The rare mask is believed to be about 9,000 years old, dating back to the time when humans first began settling into agricultural life. The discovery stemmed from an investigation by the IAA's anti-looting unit, which later traced the artifact's origin to the Puna region in Israel. Like other masks from the same era, this one was carved from soft limestone, features 2 hollowed eyes, a clearly defined mouth, and small holes along its edges, suggesting it was once tied to a surface or worn on a face. These masks mark a pivotal moment in human society, when people began to settle permanently and attach significance to ritual, social norms, and religion. Professor Alan Simmons, an anthropologist from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, told National Geographic, as populations grew and more people lived together, you needed some sort of social control. That's where formal rituals come in. Very date in my 5 and proof live. Yet the question remains, what were these masks actually used for? Some experts believe they played a role in ancestor worship. Others question the mask's authenticity, suggesting at least a few may be forgeries. The supernatural soldiers. U.S. intelligence once revealed that China had conducted biological experiments on its own soldiers with the aim of creating real-life super soldiers. Not unlike Captain America. And China isn't the only country pursuing such ambitions. Russia has claimed that Ukraine is secretly developing an army of genetically enhanced warriors using lab-based biotechnology. John Ratcliffe, the U.S. Director of National Intelligence, made these shocking accusations. According to him, China has no moral boundaries in its quest for dominance. They are reportedly testing advanced technologies on troops within the People's Liberation Army. Previously, a group of American scholars published research suggesting that China was experimenting with genetic editing on the battlefield. They believe China is manipulating the human genome to produce soldiers who are stronger, faster, and more efficient in every way. And if China is doing it, it's hard to believe the United States isn't for metaphor. Back in the 1950s, The CIA ran programs aimed at creating soldiers with telepathic abilities. No one really knows how far genetic manipulation has gone. Some scientists suspect they're using CRISPR, the famous gene editing tool. But there could also be even more advanced technologies, hidden from public knowledge. Could it be that Jason Bourne is not just a fictional character? The ship in the ice roughly 100 miles off the coast of Antarctica. Something strange was discovered using imagery from Google Earth. A vessel-shaped object about 120 m long appeared to be lying on its side atop a block of ice, completely covered in a thick blanket of snow. According to conspiracy theorists, it was an overturned ship. To be fair, the shape did look remarkably similar to a massive cruise liner from the funnels and the rows of windows to the sweeping curvature of the hull. Everything seemed to resemble a real vessel. Since the images went viral, numerous theories have surfaced. Some believe it is the remnant of a secret Nazi base in Antarctica. Others claim it was a super ship built to protect the world's most important leaders in the event of global catastrophe. Like a modern version of Noah's Ark, but reserved for the global elite. Another theory proposes that the ship was built during World War II as a last resort in case the Allies lost. While these theories sound wild, scientists have offered a far simpler explanation. They suggest this is the result of pareidolia, the brain's tendency to recognize familiar patterns in random shapes, like seeing a dragon in the clouds. In this case, the human mind simply imagined the shape of a ship from an ordinary block of ice. Sadly, scientific explanations are sometimes far less exciting than fabricated ones. The desert city of Marib. Marib was once the capital of the great kingdom of Saba, a dynasty that ruled much of southern Arabia and its vast desert lands. The Sabian built this magnificent city right in the middle of the wilderness beneath the Soat mountain range. Depending on whom you ask, Marib is also considered by some scholars to be the center of the legendary kingdom of Sheba. However, to this day, no definitive proof exists. The problem is that the capital of Sheba has been claimed to exist in various places from Sudan to Ethiopia and Egypt. One thing is certain. Marib belonged to the Sebans and was founded around 1200 B.C. Because of its position on major trade routes, Marib quickly became the commercial hub of the Arabian Peninsula, linking to Mediterranean civilizations. Precious goods like frankincense and myrrh are passed through Marib, granting it total control over trade. Today, only the brave dare to seek out this lost capital in the desert. Marib was built around an oasis, but its waters have long dried up. The entire region is now barren, with ancient structures slowly vanishing beneath the golden sands. Yet, thousands of years ago, Marib was a lush paradise. In the 8th century B.C., the Sabian built a massive dam to collect rainwater from the mountains and irrigate their fields, creating a green oasis. The traces of that glorious past now survive only in ancient texts. The Maya Square. Maya Square is an ancient archaeological site in Ukraine shaped like a giant crab or spider depending on one's imagination. Located near the village of Marie in the heart of the plains. This structure consists of raised earth mounds arranged in a mysterious pattern. Its true purpose remains unknown. At the center is a massive circular formation with a deep basin carved into it. 3 openings are cut into its wall pointing toward the northeast and south. From ground level, it may seem like nothing more than a cluster of random hills. But from above, it becomes obvious that this was a deliberate construction, limbs and all stretching up to 250 m long. The square was first discovered in 1987. But it wasn't until 2001 when researchers flew overhead in paragliders that the shape revealed itself. It was a jaw-dropping moment, akin to the discovery of the Nazca Lines in Peru, a mystery visible only from the skies. Excavations in 2004 uncovered 5 graves within the square, all dating to the late 4th millennium B.C. Skeletal analysis revealed the remains were of Indo-European descent. Piecing together the evidence, researchers believe Maya Square was built nearly 5,000 000 years ago as both an outdoor temple and an astronomical observatory. It may have even been the site of sacrificial rituals, though that part remains speculative. The mysterious imagery on the Roman Portland vase. The Portland vase was first recorded in Rome in the early 17th century, believed to have been discovered inside a tomb belonging to Emperor Alexander VI. For centuries, art historians have puzzled over the imagery on this tiny glass vessel, adorned with 7 enigmatic white figures carved into deep cobalt blue glass. To date, only one figure has been definitively identified. A man suspended in midair holding a torch and a bow believed to be the god Cupid. There's also a brave young man and a half-naked woman embracing a twisting serpent. But the identities of these characters and others remain unknown. According to the BBC, some scholars suggest the figures may depict mythological weddings, or even the historic marriage between Cleopatra and Mark Antony. The vase might have once held the ashes of an aristocrat or simply served as a priceless gift. What is certain? This was an object of immense value, not something for everyday use, and its owner was undoubtedly rich and powerful. While scholars may never agree on the true meaning of the vase's imagery, or who originally owned it or what it was used for, everyone acknowledges that this is one of only about 15 surviving Roman cameo glass vases, a luxurious art form popular at the dawn of the Roman Empire, which fell out of favor by around 50 to 60 CE. How the Romans crafted the Portland vase and its counterparts remains an unsolved mystery. UFOs in World War II. In May of 1945, a German pilot reported seeing a strange flying object in the skies over the town of Conrad. He even managed to photograph what was then referred to as a Foo Fighter, glowing cigar-shaped objects that frequently appeared during air battles. Both American and German pilots described these Foo Fighters as radiating a vivid red glow and moving in complex flight patterns far beyond the capabilities of any known technology at the time. In the photo taken by the German pilot, the object appeared to be a crescent-shaped disc hovering in the sky. Some believe extraterrestrials were observing World War II from the upper atmosphere. Too many credible pilots reported seeing mysterious objects. It's hard to dismiss all of them as mere hallucinations. On December 17, 1944, one pilot reported seeing 6 flying objects in a T-shaped formation hovering at about 1,000 feet before they vanished. Just days later, 2 other flight crews encountered glowing orange objects that shot up to 10,000 feet and disappeared like meteors. And that's just a fraction. There were so many UFO sightings during World War II that they can no longer be ignored. The Valley of the Headless Men, Nahanni Valley, located in Canada's Northwest Territories, remains one of the last unexplored regions on Earth. More than 311 miles from the nearest city, the area has preserved its raw wilderness untouched by modern civilization. The valley is known not only for its treacherous landscape, but also for its mysterious legends passed down for generations. Among the native Den people, the valley is called the Valley of the Headless Men. They speak of a tribe of warriors who once lived atop the mountains, descending onto the plains to raid and instill fear. These warriors were the Dinnies' worst nightmare until they vanished mysteriously, leaving no trace behind. No camps, no artifacts, as if they had dissolved into thin air. It's easy to dismiss this as just native folklore, but modern mysteries have added an eerie layer of truth. In 1906, 2 brothers searching for gold paddled into the valley and disappeared. 2 years later, a search party found their skeletons at a campsite. Both had been decapitated in their sleep. Before the rescue team could leave, one of them also vanished and was never seen again. Since records began, the valley has been linked to tales of headless corpses, burnt-out cabins, and people vanishing without a trace. Almost no one who enters the Valley of the Headless Men ever comes back. The Mercury mystery. No one really knows why ancient people were so obsessed with mercury. This silvery liquid metal was once believed to possess magical powers, even the key to immortality. But mercury is extremely toxic to humans and can be deadly. In Mexico, underground chambers beneath the Pyramid of the Feathered Serpent are filled with pools of liquid mercury, almost certainly used in ancient rituals. Beyond Teotihuacan, mercury has been found across Mexico, sometimes in powdered red form inside ancient tombs. Anthropologist Rosemary Joyce from the University of California explained that mercury was used to decorate jade artifacts. But the bigger question remains: why did the ancients need such massive amounts of mercury? Some theorists believe it was fuel left over from alien spacecraft machines that may have once used the Avenue of the Dead in Teotihuacan as a runway, and were described in ancient Sanskrit texts from India in the Vedas and other old Hindu scriptures. There are countless descriptions of flying machines called vimanas, divine vehicles set to soar through space, glide across land, dive underwater like submarines, or float in the sky like enormous balloons. While many dismissed these stories as myths, the Sanskrit texts clearly mention propulsion systems powered by mercury. There are even rumors that Nazi scientists studied these ancient Indian texts to create mercury-based flight engines. According to Professor Shivam Anandan, the Indians knew how to build aircraft over 7,000 years ago with technology more advanced than NASA today. Speaking of NASA, there are claims that the agency has been researching mercury-powered spacecraft that run on solar panels. The principle is surprisingly simple. Mercury is vaporized and then channeled into a firing chamber where it's ionized into plasma and expelled through small nozzles at incredibly high speeds up to 1,800 m per minute. Enough to get to the moon and be home in time for dinner. Researcher Giorgio Tsoukalos once suggested that the mercury discovered beneath the pyramids in Mexico could be evidence of such flying vehicles in ancient Teotihuacan. Perhaps that civilization didn't collapse. It just returned to its world. But the story of mercury doesn't end here. Stay tuned for even more mysteries, this time from India and China. If you found these mysterious stories fascinating, leave us a comment below and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next discovery with us. See you in the next video.